Did any of you guys have that feeling too of like what you studied and got your degree in, maybe your license in, and started working in, like everything was a complete fucking lie? That's how I feel with this nurse practitioner degree that I got in psychiatry. I feel like everything that I studied in school and had to take these exams and these get my license in, and then the realization that like everything is fake, and what is even this license and education that I got worth? I finished my nurse practitioner degree in December 2023, and I made the decision to go into mental health psychiatry because of the time that I had spent as a sexual assault forensic examiner. A lot of those, I mean, basically all of those encounters that I had with patients and victims, it was more or less each time like a therapy session. And me being a survivor myself and understanding just the impact that that time and my service and my interaction with those victims, survivors, those patients played such an important role in their healing journey and just whether they receive justice at all, because I felt like it's not just that I feel, it's that I know that most sexual assault victims in this country, probably the world, like if they do a forensic exam, like that's the only justice that they ever get. So that was driving me a lot of times in the way that I approached those forensic exams and me coming into the room as that sexual assault forensic examiner. That time that I spent as a forensic examiner, like in that role, especially being a survivor, it was, I knew like the work that I was doing was so important and so impactful, and just being able to feel, just being able to support people in, you know, one of the most horrific times in their life, that was very meaningful to me. I had people all the time say to me, how can you do a job like that? It must be so hard and it must be so depressing, and um, it must be so sad. Like, how do you do that? And my response always would be like, well, yeah, it is sad. Like, life is sad. Like, this fucking world that we're living in and our existence, like, there's so much, there's so much hurt and there's so much sadness and there's so much pain. Like, I never felt like I wanted to run away from that. And being able to show up in a way that was very meaningful, very important, very impactful, like was something that gave me like a lot of deep satisfaction. Because of that role is what made me be like, oh, like I can be a nurse practitioner in this role and study mental health and psychiatry and like have that one-on-one time with my patients in the same way that I'm able to show up for these sexual assault cases. That's what drove me in my journey to get my degree in my nurse practitioner degree in psychiatry. I did the 2.5 years to do that graduate degree. I did it full time while I was still working full time as an emergency RN, which was pretty hard actually. I mean, but a lot of people when they're doing their nurse practitioner, I mean, they're still working. Most people who are RNs like need to work full time. It's not a job that, you know, the wealthy go into, for example. Like it's like we don't have any other choice but to continue working. So most people are working full time when they're doing their NP. But most people when they're doing their NP do maybe do it part time because it's, it's a lot to work full time and then do the NP full time. But for me, I did both because I just wanted to get it over with. I didn't want to stay working as an RN in the hospital. It was too traumatic. Like I was so burnt out. Like, and I had like really bad long COVID at the time too. Like I remember my semester, the first semester of my NP was still online, completely online, even though they switched to in person like later on. But it was still, when did I start? Like it was like 2021 when I started my NP. And I had long COVID so bad that I just remember at that moment like feeling like every day when I would get out of bed, it was a struggle. It was a struggle like getting my ass to work. Like every day I didn't know how I was going to make it through the day because it was just like the bone deep exhaustion that I felt with everything. It was hard to like get out of bed. Like I would be crying basically every day of just, how is this how I'm going to feel like for the fucking rest of my life? Because if it is, like I can't imagine living anymore. Like if that's what it was. So that's how bad my long COVID was. But when I started my NP, I didn't know how I was going to do it. Like, even though it was online, I asked myself, like, how am I going to be able to get through this? Like, my brain didn't work. Like, it was such a struggle. But I got through everything, and I still believed in, I thought, like, what I was learning was the truth. Maybe. I don't know. Like, I come from a very, I guess like my background is pretty like biomedical, in the sense that both of my parents are doctors. And just, I think probably most people in this country are like, we're trained in that biomedical model, or thinking like there's a truth to that, there's science behind that, and then, just the realization that everything is bullshit, everything is lies, like, the healthcare industrial complex and the psychiatric industrial complex, they don't serve to actually heal anyone. They serve to profit. And, you profit off of sickness, you profit off of lies, you don't profit off of like actual health and like figuring out what the root cause is and healing people. But I didn't fully understand that when I was still finishing my NP. I think part of my journey in understanding that was having to find my own healing in my long COVID journey, because I was still going to. I still had I had pretty good healthcare at the time because I was working as an RN, and I was going to the doctors like all the time, like, please help me, like I don't know like how I'm going to. I was looking for the answers. But then I had a realization at one point, like, I keep going to the doctor. I keep spending all of this money on copays and testing and blah, blah, and nothing's helping me. Like, I need to figure this out on my own, obviously, because they are getting me nowhere. That's the realization that I had. And then when I finished my NP, and started working, I had the realization pretty quickly. I was working at a women's homeless shelter. Like, there's too many coincidences here for just, there being a genetic or biomedical explanation for everything. Why is it that every patient that I'm taking care of, you see this on another level as a nurse practitioner, especially working in that setting with the most vulnerable people in our community, the homeless, most of them formerly incarcerated. Like this is what our society has made the underclass, but this is the class of people that are suffering the greatest. The homelessness is the most violent thing that you can inflict upon someone. It's like beyond poverty, but for you to really understand like what's happening in society, like hearing their stories and knowing what's happening to them is basically all that you need to know to figure out like what is actually going on here. As a psychiatric nurse practitioner in that setting, my role was predominantly doing psychiatric evaluations for my patients in order for them to submit these psychiatric evaluations to the city. I believe it's city, I don't think it's state, to the city to get basically subsidized housing because they have a serious mental illness. Okay, so you're hearing like basically oral histories from every most of your patients, most of the women that are coming through there, and I'm hearing the same stories again and again and again, like extreme poverty. um, I would estimate that at least 95 to 99% of my patients, like extreme poverty, child sexual abuse, often from their own family members. I would even hear stories of like family members sex trafficking their own children. Like this was not uncommon to hear. Uh, Most of them formerly incarcerated. Just just a level of oppression that you're never going to come across by watching videos on YouTube or scrolling on social media or listening to any like mainstream media or even basically any relationship that we would have. These stories are not being told because they, for the most part, don't have access to these platforms that we do. So you're hearing these stories again and again and again, and then you're taking their history, their psychiatric history, and why is it that all of them are the ones being diagnosed with serious mental illness, like schizoaffective, schizophrenia? That's predominantly the diagnoses that I would see. And when I say like none of psychiatry is more or less it's a pseudoscience, guys. Like people need to wake up to this. Um, I know it's hard to. I'm not saying like people's emotional uh, expressions and their emotional disturbances, their emotions, like period, are not real. They are real. They're absolutely real. However, the field of psychiatry does not look at what are the things that are causing that. They make everything about the individual. It makes everything about the individual. And psychiatry, I believe, is one of the most important pieces for capitalism to survive, to be justified. Psychiatry allows the healthcare industrial complex to completely silence the economic conditions that people are living in, instead of looking at, well, why is this person having all of these emotional disturbances? Oh, maybe it's because they have housing insecurity. Maybe it's because they have job insecurity. Maybe it's because the food that they're eating is literal poison. Maybe it's because they are being molested. Maybe that is what is causing their emotional disturbances. All of these things can cause, obviously, depression, anxiety, insomnia, but also psychosis, paranoia, hearing voices, hallucinations. These are all things that trauma, extreme trauma, can cause. And psychiatry has convinced all of us, mostly, except the people that have woken up to this, that instead of looking at these societal explanations and conditions for causing these emotional disturbances and harming us in this way to cause these, extreme emotions that we're feeling, psychiatry instead gets us to focus on the individual. Oh, there is a biomedical explanation for why this person is feeling paranoid, is delusional, is anxious, is depressed, whatever. There's basically no evidence to support any of that. psychiatry is a pseudoscience, and it's been a great way for this capitalist, end stage capitalist society that we live in to silence very real critiques of the system, and instead get us to be distracted with like, oh, like we need to support mental health, and we need to support the mentally ill, and it's all about like mental illness, and it's not about what are the structural conditions that are contributing to this. If people are cared for in society, if they don't have to worry about their where they're going to sleep at night, if they're safe, if their food, if they can eat, just, you know, these basic conditions that we need to live, then for the most part, like, people are psychologically healthy. These psychological disturbances, for the most part, are created from this disgusting capitalist society that we live in. And psychiatry, I believe, does more harm than good, because these drugs that is, you know, psychiatry is one of the biggest cash cows of the pharmaceutical industry, because not only are these drugs extremely expensive, most of them, but these are drugs that providers and the pharmaceutical companies intend to keep you on for your entire life. Not just some short-term fix. No, they want you to, because they tell us that there's something wrong with our brain, that it's a biomedical or genetic failing that we have, and that with this pill, it's going to fix us. So that's why we need to take it. No, there's nothing wrong there's nothing inherently wrong with us, with our brain, for the most part, that any of these drugs would solve. Actually, these drugs are harming us more because it's not even addressing the root cause of the problem. When we are given a substance, any substance, including psychiatric medication, it numbs us. It numbs our reality. It doesn't do anything to actually to fix us, to help us. It actually keeps us in whatever state that is causing these emotional disturbances for even longer, and makes things worse oftentimes, because these drugs have negative side effects, all of them. So more or less, that's kind of what our society wants of us. They want us to deny or ignore how we are actually feeling, what these signs and our emotions are actually telling us. They're not just coming out of nowhere. The way that you're feeling is a product of your environment, of your relationships, of like the world that you're living in. It's not an individual failing. It's not just coming out of nowhere. Our emotions and our feelings are telling us something. Like, our bodies and our brains have wisdom. And when we take these substances, or when a lot of the therapy and mental health given in this country, the aim is to get us to deny what we are feeling, to just to get us to be able to lie to ourselves, to get us to just, you know, push back whatever our brains and our bodies are telling us. That's essentially the foundation of like cognitive behavioral therapy. like this form of therapy is literally created for the sole purpose of supporting capitalism, getting people to deny their feelings even, and their human experience even. So I have a problem, obviously, with that form of therapy, because it's I think that it's just like, if you are seeing a therapist that is engaging in this, I think it's wrong. I think it's so wrong, because it's just getting us to deny our emotions, and it serves as a tool to get people to just, go back to sleep, basically. Be a good worker bee. Don't rock the boat. Just shut up and be happy with what you have. Be happy. Own nothing and be happy. Don't complain. That's essentially what mental health and the offerings are in this country, to get us to ignore our very existence, to ignore our human experience, to get us to stay in shitty relationships, to get us to stay in shitty jobs, to get us to not organize or come together as a community. That's the solution for everything. Community. It's not your psychiatric medication. It's not your CBT therapy, even though that's what they want us to think it is. This society is, it's so sick, it's based on, that's essentially at the root of it. It's getting us to ignore and deny who we really are and what could be our destiny. I mean, this is essentially how the powers that be and society see us. They only want us to essentially be robots. And this is where, I mean, this whole like mental health segment comes in. It's like, get us to deny our humanity, get us to deny what our real hopes and dreams are, and what we deserve: love and abundance and success, not just for the few, but for all of us. Get us to deny all of that and just be robots for capitalism. That's essentially the role that psychiatry is serving. Just to anesthetize us, essentially. When we're anesthetized, we can't actually be in touch with what our real desires are. We stay in, we accept like this bullshit ass life. And that's why I feel like the degree that I got in psychiatry, it's like a complete fucking waste. I mean, what I want to do in terms of like helping those actually find like meaning and help beyond the traditional field of psychiatry, that's something that you don't learn any of that like in school. You have to learn all of that on your own. That's not something that they're going to teach you. When you go into psychiatry, all you are taught how to do basically is to prescribe medication for people, to get people on medication, to get people on medication for the rest of their life, essentially. Harmful medication even. So I don't know if other people feel that way, and in the field that they went into, in the professional field that they went into and what they studied. And then like the realization when you're actually in the working world of like, how am I actually, I think that I'm doing more harm than good. But I don't know, maybe that's just every field under capitalism. And to imagine like a better world and a better use of our time and talents and what we want to do to actually help people, we have to step outside of the traditional, field that we're in.